Good, Jim. Your very first visit to second year haunt here in Oak Lawn, Midnight Terror. What did you think?
Well, I think, yes, this is my first visit. This was, of course, a exceptional, for many years, home haunt and yard display. Last year, in its first year at its present location, as I understand it, had just a few, growing pain issues. Not so much that the sets themselves were lacking, but rather that the space wasn't fully utilized. This year, I think, was really a very excellent experience overall. I think from the opening, kind of setting the theme with some live, kind of ambiance with music and pounding drums and just a, sort of a loud rock score, setting the scene, kind of, taking you through and getting you overall in the mood. I think the individual set pieces were very, very well done. Space was excellent. Actors in general, well used. A number of them. I mean, it was very, very well staffed. For me, some of the highlights were in terms of characters. This Bishop character, who was just really a wild creation. I think that was exceptional. I think the rooms themselves, very, very ambitious. From just some of the slightest, touches, from going through a room that was sort of lined with all of these syringes and hypodermic needles to another room that featured very, very intricate wall displays and a mirror where a hand actually was reaching out at you. Each room I could sense a purpose to it. I mean, everything had a sort of interlocking theme with it, and again I thought very, very well done overall. And in the end, when a lot of haunts sort of have kind of an anticlimax or letdown, I thought it was very effective as you are leaving the haunt itself and you're kind of winding through this wire mesh maze, and you've got these characters, only three, but it seemed like a lot more, of chainsaw waving, kind of psychos coming after you from all different directions. And I just thought, it's just jarring. I mean, you're kind of, prepared to, exit the premises and just leave. And having that was, I think, a very, very clever, not seen before type of a touch. So for me, as a first time visit, I was very, very pleased, and I think it was a solid 4.5 chainsaws. And again, I think it could only get better from there. I think it's ambitious, and I look forward to visiting this in the future.
Okay, when we went to Midnight Terror last year, it was its very first time as a professional haunt. It had tripled its space. It used to be a home haunt in the operator's garage. And unfortunately, last year, it looked like the amount of props, actors, and sets that were appropriate for a garage in a haunt that was 3 times the size. So there was a lot of empty space, a very small number of actors, and the ones that were there tended to do the same thing over and over, sort of the same acting. So we weren't thrilled with it, but it was a first-year haunt, and we hoped that it would have a chance to grow. So I'm happy to say that grow it did, and it managed to fill all the space right now that it has, which is, again, 3 times, much more than 3 times the size, actually. It's very large. Good set design, excellent set design. Sets were constant throughout. You weren't exiting a set and looking at a bare warehouse floor or an empty corridor. You may be in an empty corridor, but the walls were sculpted in such a way that you had at least something to look at from walking from scene to scene. A plethora of actors. We're told about 65 actors in the haunt that night, which is a pretty decent amount of actors in the haunt. It's divided into 2 this time around. The first part is sort of a factory/warehouse, and the second part is a hospital, quote unquote. So you can expect the standard hospital things in there that you see everywhere, various operating rooms and things like that. And then in the warehouse, various rooms that cover anything from a bathroom to some sort of office waiting room to more esoteric types of things that I won't specifically get into. Haunt length was very good too. It is approximately 14 minutes long. You could say 15 minutes long, depending on how long it takes you to walk. Could be less if you're really scared and you run through it. And some nice surprises, particularly at the end. And for $17, it's a much better value than it was last year, to be honest about it. And I have to say they stepped it up. So I'm going to give it, I would say, probably 4 chainsaws this year. And now, I'm going to spoil a little for you, for those of you who might be interested. So it's spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Some great characters in there. There's a giant demon character who's on a pedestal who follows you around, and he speaks in a very low, grumbling voice, and 2 sort of female assistants that he has that lead you into this factory-type warehouse area. He's really good. There's a mirror scene where a hand pushes through a mirror, which is excellent. There's a guy with a sledgehammer at the end who bangs on these walls back and forth. He has this giant sledgehammer and he runs down the corridor at you and bangs the walls back and forth. Very good. And in the hospital scene, this was excellent. Hospital scene, there's a doctor who he peeks around the corner and he's like, "Why don't you come into my operating room?" which is hilarious. But he's actually, quote unquote, operating on a real amputee. And I have to give Midnight Terror a lot of credit for including all types of people in the haunt. And this amputee is perfect. He's missing part of his arm. And it looks great because it looks like this doctor really chopped his arm off. I mean, it's a very bold move and I think a clever move, and it works well. It's a good payoff. And then as Jim alluded to, at the very end, when you think you're done, it looks like you're walking out to the parking lot. You're not. It actually, I thought personally that the haunt was over. I was already checking the time and seeing how long the haunt was, and then there's this whole ending part where you're in this series of mesh cages surrounded by chainsaws, and they weave in and out. You never get away from the chainsaw. So a lot of haunts you see, you run down a corridor and the chainsaw chases you, or he jumps out at you and you're done. Not here. The chainsaw follows you to the maze. You have to go through the maze, and chainsaws are all around. Never saw it done before. Definitely very, very good. So again, 4 chainsaws from me. All right, Midnight Terror, it's their second year as a professional haunt. Was there improvement over last year?
Oh, definitely, yes. A lot of improvement. I know when we went last year was opening night, and I don't know if everything was quite ready, which I completely understand. So it had a lot of potential last year. I felt that.
I'll just interject and say tonight was opening night too.
Yes, it was, but there was a big difference because that was their first night ever as a professional haunt. So there's a big difference. This year, they were, it was ready. I mean, they had everything together, and I was very impressed. I really liked it. Big improvement from last year. There were a lot of things that first of all, they had Wade Entertainment. They had a DJ with music. They had these drummer that, that was pretty cool. I've never seen that at a haunt, so that's unique. And then, Wade Entertainment, as far as, they had creatures walking around and everything. They were pretty effective. I know that girl that walked up to you, she looked great. I mean, it was a great job. I have to say the acting was great in the haunt itself. There were a lot of good actors in there that were effective. There were some cool effects. I don't want to give any spoilers, but some unique things that I haven't seen. One hallway and room kind of actually really creeped me out. Is something I've never seen before. It was the needles. Which I'm afraid of needles, so I mean, it's like, yeah, when I was in there, it's like, I just couldn't wait to get out, get through it. And
that's exactly what Laura did when she went through there too.
I did that. Yes, I did. I was trying to get through it. So I know I don't like needles, so that was scary to me, for real. And then there was another cool effect with the mirror. I'm not gonna go into that, but there were different. They said with the actors. They were pretty effective. The way they were dressed, the makeup was really good. I really enjoyed it. I did. I thought it was great. Big improvement from last year. I'm going to give it 4.5 chainsaws. Actually, make it a 5 because I really, there's some things that put it over the top for me, different things, which I don't want to give away spoilers. So I'm going to give it a 5 this year. 5 chainsaws. Really like Midnight Terror, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to do. I can see them continuing to get better and better as they, each year that they're professional. So, great job. Go check it out. I recommend it. And it is a good value, too. For the length of the haunt, and it is 2 haunts, the length is good for the price you pay. So, it's definitely good value, great haunt.